Dear viewers, this is Teacher Nabukenya from Trinity College in Nabingo. We are still looking at worship, adding on what we discussed in the previous lesson where we looked at worship in the early church or life among the believers in the early church. Now, today, we want to look at the religious leaders in a Christian church today. You may ask yourself, why is she emphasizing the church today? Because this is Christian religious education. So I don't expect you to give examples or cases in point which are far beyond the church, the Christian church. When we look at our photos today, we have those religious leaders, each representing a certain Christian sect. So as you deal with this lesson, I expect you to identify them, then attach them to their respective churches. We have 3 of them, the main leaders in those churches. And here we are also continuing to study the pictures of the church leaders in Uganda today. I also give you 3. Identify them and attach them to their respective churches. You can even show us or give us their names. If you know what they do, where they stay, you may also write that in your book. Don't write on papers. Continue from where you stopped in the previous lesson. And please, dear learners, make sure you write your headings properly. Now, after looking at those photos, we have this activity. The previous one was activity 148, and now this one is activity 1.49, where we are required to identify the religious leaders according to their churches, those photos that we have. Look at them, identify them, and attach them to their respective churches. Question 2, the task that we are supposed to do, to discuss the characteristics of each of the church leaders. Look at them. I've given you 6 of them. Look at them and each one give the characteristic of that church leader. Like I reminded you in the previous lesson that please don't give 2 points, 2 views, and then you sit and relax. The minimum, the least points that you can give, at least 5. But since you're at home, the best thing to do is to look for over 10 views or ideas or points. How do some church leaders mislead Christians today? We have seen our good church leaders in these photos, but there are those ones that you know who are misleading Christians today. That may not be in your church, but at least you have read it somewhere. Discuss with mommy, with auntie, with sister, with a brother, with a friend to find out. And please mention those church leaders who are misleading our dear Christians today. We even have another activity that is 1.50. Identify and mention the different church leaders today, such as the prophets. You know the prophets, you have heard of them. If you have never heard of them, look at our born again churches. The prophets are there, so many of them. Then in that part of the Christian life, we even have apostles there. We have those who call themselves disciples. We have bishops. So you mention the name of a person that you have identified, that church leader. If he's a prophet, you say prophet so and so. Let me give you one leading example. Prophet Mbonye. That one, I think you know him. And then you tell us his church. If you have a bishop, you know bishop, the bishops, you know them. You know the apostles. We have Apostle Mitala. Then you look for more apostles and then you write their name and the title. The next question is discuss how these church leaders conduct Christian worship in their different churches. Those apostles, bishops, the prophets, the disciples. If you have talked about Apostle Mitala, if you have talked about Prophet Mbonye, you have talked of Bishop Samuel Gerere, then you show us how that person conducts worship. You explain. Please avoid this work where you cross. Let us write smart work. Then locate the biblical teaching about false prophets. You know the tricks that we use when we are looking for something in the Bible. Go behind that Good News Bible. In the index, you'll find there. And go through that index where we have F. OP. Then you look for the word false prophets. It will give you scriptures that you will follow in the Bible. You can look at the book of Prophet Amos. Then you can also visit or Google. You ask Mr. Google about the false prophets and he's going to give you most of them and he will give you the scriptures in the Bible. Please do not write your own scriptures. Go in your Good News Bible, talk about them. The question is free. Go in the Bible, Old Testament and the New Testament, to make our research complete. The other task that we are supposed to do is to compare the leaders of worship in the early church with those ones of today. The leaders of worship in the early church, I think you know them. Peter, Paul, Barnabas, Matthew, Mark, name them, the list is endless. If in the early church, please read from the book of Acts, because that is where the early church begins from. Then you compare those leaders. Compare Barnabas with our leaders today. Compare Paul, the one we know who wrote most of these letters. We have Peter, we have John. The list is endless. Then cite a few and compare with our leaders in the church today. Then another task that you're supposed to do, dear girls and boys, brainstorm the characteristics of false preachers today. When I say brainstorm, don't just discuss them and leave them there. Please write them in your CRE notebooks. And I still insist, write smart work, good work, which is going to be assessed. Please visit our link for more information. You can go to the e-library of Trikona, then you'll get more information. I wish you God's blessings. Let us continue to be safe. Let us pray for our country and let us always depend on God. Bye for now. I remain Teacher Ida Nabukenya from Trinity College, Nabingo.